Right, folks, welcome to Metal Wani. With us today, we have Bart Hennephof of Textures. How you doing, brother?
Very good. Thank you very much.
And you guys must be very excited because you took a long time for this album to come out, Phenotype, after almost 5 year long break. How's the band feeling? Such a long time, huh?
Yeah, well, we're feeling great. It did take a while, that's true, but we also lost our first guitar player,
Right.
Joachim. He quit the band just after Dualism, the fourth album.
Mm-hmm.
So that took a while to find a new guitar player, and we found a new one after 1 year in Joe Tall.
Mm-hmm.
And after 1 year, of course, we had to get together and practice, and he had to get into writing with us. He'd never written before like that in a band like us. We're a very democratic band. Like everyone in the band has their own vision on the music, and like a sort of a producer. We're like 6 producers.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has his view on the music, and everyone writes actually, whether it be just small parts or helps with composing a song. So
Mm-hmm.
Joe really had to get used to that, but also he started writing himself and delivered some new ideas, and luckily that all were quite usable. So yeah, it took some extra time, but in the end it was really a very cool result.
All right, and about the album in general, it's a concept album, and as we know that we have another album coming up after a year or two, but there was a possibility to kind of come up with a double album instead of releasing it in two different states of time. So what was the intention here of not releasing it as a double album?
Yeah, well, we've seen, of course, different bands doing this, like releasing 2 discs at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And with some bands, I think that the impact of the songs, it gets lost a bit when you have to listen to 20 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear 7 very cool songs, and then after with song number 13, you don't know what happened before, and you don't really have the impact of what a song can have on you personally.
Right.
So that's what we wanted to avoid a bit, and also just as a sort of to spread the attention over all the songs.
Mm-hmm.
We had like a lot of material already for this album that comes out right now, but we thought, okay, we can just put it on 2 discs, and it will be a lot, but why not spread it over 2 discs, and the musical stuff that's going on, it will still sound like one big album, sort of. The melodies that you hear on this album that comes out in February now in Phenotype, some melodies you will hear back in the album next year on
Mm-hmm.
Genotype, but in a different form. Like a guitar melody will be coming back as a vocal melody with a different background, or the other way around. Stuff like that. Rhythms you hear back in different speed or in different contexts. That kind of stuff. That makes it really fresh, but still sounding like, hey, it all sounds like one album, but it's something else.
Right, that's really cool. And how about the conceptual side of it? Like looking at the artwork, it basically reflects a lot. So for you guys, what was the main intention of having a concept on this album basically getting divided into 2?
Yeah, the title Genotype Phenotype, or Phenotype Genotype, it's a bit of genetics
Mm-hmm.
involved in this. In nature, when you see it, I will try to explain short as possible.
Right.
But in nature, you have like a genotype of an organism. It's like the genetic source of something,
Mm-hmm.
of an animal or of a person. It's like the genetic code that you get as a child from your parents. It's the
Right.
code embedded in your genes.
Yeah.
So it's there. It's not changeable. But after you grow, also after a plant grows or after a human or animal grows, you get influenced by the forces from outside.
External entities.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you get influenced mentally by everyone around you. You get influenced by if you live in a warm country or live in a snowy country. Your your external you is shaped by the forces from outside, and that's the phenotype. It's like your external, the look of yourself.
Right.
And that's why we thought, like, oh, this is cool, because we can do this musically as well. So the first thing that you see of someone, it's his phenotype, because it's shaped by time.
Yeah, and then we have the genotype, which evolves over the period of time.
Yeah, and if you do some research and you start digging, you start literally digging in someone's genes, you see his source code, his gene.
I can understand. I am a biological student.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
So this way, yeah, you can see it like this as well. We have a lot of basic material that we started working with, some rhythms, some melodies, some musical themes, which have evolved to one album, which is coming out now in February. Phenotype is the first that you see of these melodies, and in 1 year, Genotype will come out, and you will see the source of all these melodies, like where they come from in their minimal state or in their other state, at least.
Sounds good. And also from the songwriting process, it's obviously you guys embrace your math metal roots, but this time it's more on the hooks and the lighter tone as compared to the complexity of how Texture's been doing in the past. So it certainly has a new flamboyant vibe on this album. Was it kind of an intentional to basically proceed in the same direction as, let's say, previous album Dualism did?
Overall, the album is more heavy than our last album Dualism. I think that was a bit the key that we worked on right now, because this is the more heavy stuff of what's about to come, and the next album Genotype will be a bit more stretched out and not so heavy, but this is the heavy part of everything. But indeed, you're right. With this album is more song based, quite compact songs. Well, not every song, but
right.
It really sounds like a song with a start and a finish.
Awesome. That's great. That's cool.
So speaking of the change in the guitars and everything, I mean, what was your approach with that? Like, is that intentional? You kind of seem surprised when he asked about the differences in technicality and groove.
Well, as I heard comments from different people, and also friends and fellow musicians, they think it goes back a bit more like our third album, Silhouettes. A bit more brutal stuff is on there. On this album, there's not so much stretched out ambient stuff. It is there, and it's still there. We wanted to, incorporate like all the textures elements that we always have, but this album is more, you could say up-tempo, groovy, with even some thrash and blast parts. And with Dualism, it's not that much up-tempo. It's more heavy grooves with a bit more serene parts. In that view, I see it like this album is a bit more heavy than the last one.
Okay.
That's what we aimed for as well, yeah.
Yeah. So with in terms of the vocals, I suppose, I mean, I know that's not really you, but there seemed to be because this album is heavier, so there are more harsh vocals and everything, and obviously he does a really great job no matter what he's doing, but it has a distinct quality with these harsh vocals mixed into, with the blast and the heavier, sort of more gent-like sort of tones or whatever. So I guess, I mean, you said you were going for the heavier sound. But are you planning on, I guess, for Genotype, throwing in a more technical element, bringing that back a little bit more with the groove and everything?
Well, actually, Genotype is right now it's like 70 or 80%. It's already finished.
Okay.
Writing wise, we almost finished with that, and we're planning to record it somewhere this year. But it will be a bit more of our, yeah, I could say, as it looks now, 50% ambient stuff and more progressive, you could even say fusion style stuff mixed with the heavy stuff we also still have there. But it's Genotype will also be it will feel like one big song of 45 minutes approximately. It's like
Okay.
really different than a song-based album. Like it should sound like one big song, but of course it will have parts of like 5 or 10 minutes, which sound like one story, and then it goes back into a calm phase, and then the next story begins. So it's a whole different approach than the other albums.
Okay. So I noticed listening to the whole album, the 2 instrumental tracks that lead into the other tracks, there's Minder, which is the drum track, and then Ziman, is that how you say it? Ziman?
Zman, yeah.
Yeah, the piano track.
Yeah.
How did those come about? Did you write them afterward to make the album more cohesive, or were they written previously?
The drum part was really a last minute thing. It was not even sure if it was going to make the album or not, because we had Erosion, that song, and we thought, yeah, it could be cool if it could have something like sort of intro or anything. And it was Steph's idea, our drummer, for long to have some kind of drum part with different drummers on it, and so we began to write for a drum part. But yeah, it was like, I think he was done with writing it after we recorded everything for this album, and we were already in the mixing stage, almost reaching the final mix, and then he wrote this part and got 7 other drummers, and we said like, hey, let's just try to record it in a different studio in a different room, and see if it still can make the album, because it sounded really cool, the demo of this drum part. So we just did it, and went a full day recording with 7 drummers, and we recorded them all at the same time in the same room. There's also some video footage of this, and yeah, it ended up pretty cool. So we just thought, hey, this is cool to put on the album as well, and it was based on the rhythms used in the song Erosion. So it fit perfectly in front of the song Erosion. And for Zman and Timeless, it was part of the whole song. Actually, we wanted it to be like one big song, but of course you have listeners who don't like piano and they want to skip the piano, and just as a practical reason, we just made a second track of Timeless. But you can see it as just one big song, because the whole...
Yeah, well, I mean, I noticed it does flow into it very nicely, and I did notice that the lick is the same from the piano.
Yeah.
It's, echoed in that,
Yeah.
so I did notice that, yeah.
The whole piano part, literally the whole melody and harmony comes back at the end of Timeless, so that was part of the plan also. And
Awesome.
as an explanation, Zman is the Hebrew word for time.
Okay.
Our synth player and Joe, our new guitar player, they both know Hebrew language, because they were born in Israel. So we thought, hey, well, we can put it in there and use that piano part, sort of a title called Time, but in Hebrew, and then the actual song is called Timeless.
For you guys, evolved over the period of time, when you look back at when you guys started and where you are now, how have you progressed as a band from album to album?
Well, we are still growing. I see it like that, and personally, but also musically, of course. We're still such good friends. I think that's a very valuable thing of our band. If I see a lot of bands of friends of me or bands from abroad, which also they are good friends, but they can really have discussions and arguments and even fights within the band because of musical difficulties, differences. And we never really have that. We really can talk we all can talk very well with each other and solve problems together. And of course we have discussions, but we respect each other's decisions and each other's view. And I think that's a really good, strong thing of us, that we make the music grow like this. Yeah.
That's cool. I can totally relate to that. And like there are barrage of gent bands out there. I mean, of course, be it States or be it Europe, more in States though. We have a lot of bands out there in the field playing the same, basically the same kind of songwriting style or even the tone. So what do you think has it become so easy for bands to just put a gent term and start a band, or it's just going nowhere? Where do you feel is this entire gent scene going?
Yeah, I think there are really a lot of cool creative bands. Also the young bands that just started and have something cool, or just a little EP maybe. But the stuff that's going on musically is really cool and very creative. You never hear anything like that in other bands or in rock or something. So in that way, musically they deliver quite cool stuff. On the other hand, I think it's too easy for anyone now to start such a band.
Right.
If you have like a drum computer and a Line 6 pod or something, where you can add in some extreme sounds with a low-tuned guitar, then everyone can start such a band. And in this way, there are so many bands coming now,
We're doing this.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you get lost, and you don't really. There's so many bands you can choose from. You cannot easily see the jewels between them, like
Right.
the ones that really stand out. They're hard to see because of the forest of young bands who just found a little formula of programming drums and cutting and pasting all kinds of riffs.
Right.
That's the bad thing. I think there's a chance that because it gets so much, it will get lost, and it will can even destroy the genre, as I see it.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
All right. And what's the plan of taking this album on road? I see you have few shows planned with, I think in the month of Feb or March.
Yeah, February.
Yeah. Is there anything else planned apart from this? Any European festivals or something?
Yeah, they're almost being announced now. We'll do a lot of European festivals in the summer, and we're even looking at some US dates. I cannot say anything yet, but yeah, we've got some cool contacts there.
Cool.
So that's looking good.
So promising 2016 for you.
Yeah. And also in the end of the year, another European tour will be there for sure. Cool.
Thanks, man. So before we conclude, how about you define the sound or the essence of Phenotype in just one sentence?
Phenotype is like everything of the old and new textures combined. With lots of versatility, but especially up-tempo, song-based heaviness.
So the past, the present, and the future of textures in one album, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's great having a chat with you, and I look forward to the album release. Wish you all the best for the tours.
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
successful 2016, and again we'll be waiting for you to come back home to India and play some more shows.
Yeah, thank you very much, man.